So looking at the future here, trying to figure out what's going to happen on the Supreme Court, and the first thing that Democrats have been talking about a lot is Roe versus Wade. Of course, that's the first thing most people think about, and honestly, it's safe. Roe versus Wade is probably not going anywhere, but abortion rights could still be outlawed. So Barrett in the past has said that Roe vs. Wade was safe during a 2013 forum. Let me see if I can pull it up for you real quick. Waiting for my computer to load. That's going a little slow. But in a 2013 forum, Amy Barrett said that she aligned the view that Roe will endure in some form. She declared the landmark ruling was a fundamental right, that women has a right to choose an abortion, and that will likely remain. The controversy, she said right now, is about funding. Now, honestly, this is kind of... Now, honestly, this is all bullshit, right? Because right now it's illegal to for the government to fund abortions, right? Like federal funding for abortions is illegal throughout the country. What is more likely is that we're going to see a lot of ridiculous restrictions on abortion. Just like the challenges to Roe vs. Wade that the Supreme Court looked at just a few years ago.
Court threw out a Texas law that required abortion clinics to upgrade their facilities to hospital-like standards and for clinic doctors to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals. Supporters of the law argued it raised the level of care for women. But the opposition said the law would have closed all but a handful of clinics in Texas. Justice Stephen Breyer, in the majority opinion, wrote, "The Texas law, quote, provides few, if any, health benefits for women, poses a substantial obstacle to women seeking abortions, and constitutes an undue burden on their constitutional right to do so."
So that's the thing. It's that, you don't have to just get rid of Roe vs. Wade to stop an abortion. Abortion rights, I should say. Republicans have been trying to do this for years in states throughout the country. Admitting privileges and surgical equipment is one thing, right? And basically the idea there is that for admitting privilege, that a doctor has to be able to practice at a local hospital in the area. And a lot of local hospitals have said, absolutely not. Especially you have a lot of hospitals that are run by religious organizations, Presbyterian, stuff like that. And they are not going to allow an abortion doctor to practice there. Also, surgical equipment, right? And this is a twofer, okay? So to say that abortion clinics, which the vast majority of abortions are medical abortions, right? They literally give you a prescription and you go get a pill, okay? But Republicans now want every abortion facility to need surgical equipment. That'll never be used, but what it will do is make it so those facilities have to shut down because they simply can't afford the equipment. Another thing they've been doing, they've actually been successful here in Texas, is a mandatory wait. So it takes 48 hours from your first visit to when you say, hey, I want an abortion, before they'll actually give you the medication to undergo the procedure. And so the thing is, that might not seem like a huge burden, right? That might not seem like that big of a thing. But if abortion clinics are shut down throughout, the state and the country, and your state might only have, I think there were Texas, the entire state of Texas, which is massive, could maybe only have like a handful of abortion clinics, maybe 2 or 3 abortion clinics. Well, then that becomes a lot more difficult, right? That isn't if you're in the city and you just go downtown and you go to your Planned Parenthood or something like that, and then you come back in 2 days. No, that means that you need to leave the city you're in, you need to go to your appointment, and you potentially have to just wait around 48 hours or go back home and then come back before you can actually get the medication you need for an abortion. And, if you probably have to see the doctor after the procedure, and so that just adds more expense to people. It makes it harder for people to get abortions. Another thing they've been trying to do is a 6 to 8 week cutoff. And the idea here is, the idea that you can detect a heartbeat, as early as 6 to 8 weeks. Now the problem with this is that most women don't know if they're pregnant before 6 or 8 weeks, right? Most women, if they take birth control's not perfect. And, they might have, a lot of women have a period in that first trimester right after they're pregnant. So theoretically, women would, I guess, have to take pregnancy tests every 2 weeks to make sure that they're not pregnant. But that's a huge deterrent, right? Because after 8 weeks, you might say, hey, I didn't know I was pregnant before, but if the Republicans have their way, you will not be able to get an abortion. Now, these rules right here, they would shut down the vast majority of abortion clinics around the country. But, let's be honest here. This isn't about reducing abortions. It's about punishing women for having sex. If you really wanted to stop abortions throughout the country, if you really wanted to reduce abortions, you'd offer free contraception. Doesn't happen now. You would revamp sex education. I was surprised to learn that abstinence only is still a very, very popular form of sex education throughout the country. Here in Texas, where I live, the vast majority of cities, the vast majority of counties and school districts still teach abstinence only, which is like you're not teaching them anything. It would be like trying to teach kids, hey, how do you put out a fire, right? Without telling them what causes a fire. I mean, it just makes no sense. Also, if you didn't want abortions to happen, you'd be more willing to support financial support for young families, right? How can the state require, women to have these children and then say, okay, have fun with that, right? Kids, they kind of need to eat a couple times a day, so I hear. It kind of makes it a little bit difficult to work if you have a young one you have to take care of. There's not a whole lot of early childhood places. It's not a whole lot of care for young children. They got to wait a couple years before they can actually go to school. So what are you going to do in the meantime, right? And as a government, the society, you can't require people to have kids and then not help them out financially with those kids at all. And so again, this debate is not about abortion. It's not about stopping, it's not about stopping abortion. It's about controlling sex in our society, right? Now, there's tons of different forms of contraceptions, right? There's the pill you could take, there's the shot, all those kind of things, but they all have some kind of failure rate. The only thing that's 100% safe is 100% sure to make sure you don't have a child and make sure you're not pregnant is an abortion. And for a lot of these folks that are against Roe Vs Wade and against abortion, it's not about the kids. Again, it's about what they say is they want to stop irresponsible people, which is another way of saying they want to make sure there is always a risk for engaging in sex. They want to make sure that there is always a chance that you'll get pregnant and there's nothing you can do about that, right? They want to make sure that there is always a consequence to promiscuity, and that's really what that's all about. And for me, it's ironic that the party that is all about freedom and personal liberties and doesn't want to wear a mask because that impedes on their personal liberty, now wants to take the most important choice in many young people's lives away from them. Does that make a whole lot of sense?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics and news and all the stuff that's going on in our country?